Well, good evening, and it's another superb Saturday. The last Saturday in the month of September. Well, when you hear last, they must have had a first. And what we did for the first Saturday on Beyond the Runway, we actually featured two amazing persons from the indigenous community. So it's only fitting that the last Saturday we continue on that trend because for the entire month of September, although I missed the gathering at Sophia and everything else, I still had a blast because I went with my friend Raquel a few times and had some tomo and some other dishes. So I'm cool. I mean, you miss all the activities in terms of the cultural items and stuff like that. But I think a lot of things still went on, and we'll hear a little more about that as the program go on. And again, it's another day to feel blessed, another day to be thankful. And it's another day to think that this bread that we have, and me from the last, every time I do it more consciously now. When I breathe, I think about the person that took their last breath. Every time I take mine, I think about somebody else, and that's I become so much appreciative of that. And I want to say good evening to the men across borders, the guys that are in the anthology. I know that is coming up that's actually it's launching on the 30th, and you have to join us. Those men are just super, super, super. Those men that the stories are compelling, it's riveting. I'm talking about men across borders. Our guest tonight, he is nothing short of magnificent. You're going to hear a little bit more about him. He's going to tell you more, and we are too, because I have a co-host this evening, Raquel. Raquel is my sister. She is going to be joining us, and I'm very happy that she can because what's happening today is a special edition, and she was part of the initial conversation. And it's only right that she joins us today because the Sonia Noel Foundation for Creative Arts, we're going to be honoring, giving acknowledgement so much to and it's not, you probably would know a lot, not many of them, but people in the communities that are doing their bit. I think that's why a lot of times that we have to do that. Not the people that are well known and they're out there, but they have the ones that are behind the scenes and they're doing their things without a camera being on. So we have to do that. And talking about there, let me just tell you a little bit about the foundation. The last thing we did actually was the Love Revolution. We launched that a couple of years ago, but this year we actually launched it in schools. And because of COVID, we did not get to continue that mission. But we'll be doing a virtual campaign very soon because I mean, like Mother Teresa said, love is a low-hanging fruit that is always in season, in the reach of everyone, and the world needs more love. I mean, that's something that we can never have, enough. So that is one of the things that we're going to be doing. But I'm going to introduce my co-host today, and then we are going to get into our guest. He's so special. I mean, this guy. Listen, I've been to Amerindian Heritage Month so many times, the celebration, and he's like a permanent fixture because he's always the MC. And it's like he has such a good humor. He has a good history. I mean, come on, this guy's a legend in my book. He is a legend, and I'm so honored to have him here with us tonight. Ovid Williams. Some of you might know him, and if you don't tonight, trust me, this is a name that you're not going to forget. And the two of us actually shared a little history because he has a history of Sonias who have hurt him. I'm not one of them. But I'm going to be introducing my guest, Raquel Thomas Caesar, and Ovid Williams.
Good evening.
One of us having Sonia's that hurt
I
him.
don't know. I don't know about the Sonias. I know but S's, but not Sonias.
Oh my God! Oh, that was fun. That's just a funny bit there. Yeah, I absolutely love him. So Ovid, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, we both think so highly of you. You probably can feel the energy already, because you have.
I feel so privileged to be joining two queens in my life. Thank you so much.
Ovid is so special, and I'm so glad that Sonia made the time to actually have you on the program because you're such a wealth of knowledge in terms of heritage and the languages and so on. As we will learn how many of the languages you speak, and you're playing such an important role. So Sonia, really thank you for having Ovid on and for what we're doing today as well.
No,
okay, so let me say, when my adok is here, we are Vietnam. This is welcome to our heritage season. That is in the Patamona.
Awesome.
I need to line more with Ovid because I need to learn more of these. I need to learn more of these languages because I think what I like is that I always thought it should be preserved, and I'm glad if I'm seeing some work done actually in that direction because it's needed to be preserved. Yeah.
Yes.
So Raquel, thank you for joining me for co-hosting here with me this evening. And it's like it seems as though you hardly see Raquel without Sonia these days. So she's like my sister. And what I love about it is that we connected to the heart. We have very similar mission and vision, and that's why it's so important that we collaborate to get things done. So Ovid, listen, I want them to hear more from you. What I want them to hear who is Ovid. I want to just give them a sneak because the program go on, they're going to learn about your triumph and your challenges and everything. But just a little bit, who is Ovid Williams?
Well, I started my life with a challenge. So my first voice that I exposed to the world was with a cry, because I got a good lash on my backside, and I started out with a cry. Um, but I'm a Patamuna, one of the 9 indigenous nations, tribal nations of Guyana, and I'm from the North Pacaraimans, from a village called Paramakatoy. My dad was the chief of the Patamuna tribe. In those days, we didn't have individuals to shout for the villages. We only had one person who was the chief in all the tribes. My dad was the chief, and he was single. And during one of his runs, or running the ward, so to speak, he was given my mom, Agnes, who was an orphan, a 16-year-old orphan. The elders decided that he should have a wife, seeing that he was a chief. And
And
my mom,
you're looking like a chief today.
my
I know
mom,
he certainly is.
so my mom was given to him, and she, growing up in another part of the Patamuna landscape, she couldn't really speak the Patamuna fluently, but growing up with the catechist, she knew some amount of English. She only attended up to the first standard in school. So when
Oh
she
wow.
went to Paramakatoy with my dad, when there was the Second World War, there was came about a renaissance in the Pacaraimas where missionaries went there to spread the word of God, the gospel. Nobody knew English. The missionaries
Wow.
did not know Patamuna. So
Wow.
my mom, after
Interesting.
something like 15 years without speaking English, became the natural or the automatic translator of English to the Patamuna people with the missionaries. Then, being the wife of the chief, that automatically raised them to that prestigious position that they held. They got some children, and I was the last male in their family, and they didn't want to leave me unattended, so they carried me around with them, and just speaking in Patamuna. So at the age of 7, the missionary decided this boy is getting big and he's not going to school, so y'all better enroll him in school. I couldn't speak English. The only English I knew was the small verses from the Bible. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not, whatever.
Life,
Galatians,
yeah.
be not deceived, God is not mocked, for who whatever you sow, that shall you also reap. And the shortest verse, Jesus wept. That kind of thing. That was the only English I knew. I parroted it without knowing what it means. So when I
Mhm.
started school at 7 years old, I joined the class with some small children, and I was wondering why me, a big boy, joining this small class. And I said, like, well, I wonder why this is happening. But I couldn't speak English. So they promoted me after a few months. I improved, and then I caught up with my age group. Fast forward 4 years after, and the common entrance is for 10-year-old and 11-year-old. That was my last chance. And out of a group of 8, I was chosen, um, unknown to me for reasons. And they carried me, the missionary plane flew me to Lethem to join St. Ignatius School to write the common entrance. I struggled with my English. Patamona, I can speak fluently, but English I couldn't understand. It's so complex.
Mhm.
And I wrote common entrance. By some miracle, I I passed the common entrance.
That wasn't a miracle.
As a matter of fact, at that time, Region 9 was considered as Rupununi District. So I got top marks for Rupununi District. And in
That's Region
October,
8? That's Region 8 as well?
no, Region 9 now, Region 9.
Oh, Region 9. Okay.
But the whole area was called Rupununi District. They didn't have
Okay.
regions as yet. So
Mhm.
my brother got a letter in October. We wrote the exams, common entrance in April, got a letter in October,
Oh.
end of month, that saying that I passed the common entrance and um, I will be put to Queen's College.
Imagine
No,
you just didn't pass. You passed to the
can
top school. That's not a fluke at
you?
all. Oh,
Right.
that's
So
amazing.
there was the first challenge. My limited English, I can only speak Patamona, and then going to a school like King's College. I mean, Reginai Collegium is really, really noted for high top class thing. So I enrolled in October, and then I was sent back home for the Christmas holidays. This is in 1968. The 2nd of January 1969, there was a rebellion, the Rupununi uprising, and nobody can travel from there to come to Georgetown. So I was further delayed in coming to school till March. So I was kept back, one from the September when the results came out, and then with the uprising. However, I managed to
Hmm.
catch up. And then, well, I wrote my O levels in 1974, and then I couldn't get a job. Reality faced me. Now, while I was at QC, it never um, came to my consciousness that I was an Amerindian. QC is such a brotherhood. QC is QC. So it's only when I
Wow.
came out and applied for a job I realized that people were calling me Bokman or Amerindian or indigenous, but at QC that never happened. The brotherhood QC, Reginai Collegium is
That's
Wow.
Reginai.
That's
pretty amazing. That's really
And that
amazing.
I up to now, and I really, really feel proud about that. Then they asked me for a
hmm
party card. Now from QC, when you write at that time was ordinary level,
Yeah.
the General Certificate of Education, GC, it wasn't CXC like now. And I didn't even know about party politics and things. They asked me if I have a party card for my first interview, and that was as a cartographer. I had to check up the meaning of
Tara
cartography
outside.
before I go on. I did not get through. I got 1 week after I got a note saying you have not in capital letters been accepted. After that, my brother-in-law, Mr. Eliezer, he coached me and said, "You will never ever again fail an interview."
An interview.
So I went to Latam. I got character Latam in 1975 on a fuel plane, and I applied at the hospital as an assistant dispenser, and I got through with the job, and I started working as an assistant dispenser, mixing ointments and suspensions, and learning to read the prescriptions um, to give out the tablets and things like that. And I did my first post-mortem, and the
Wow.
checking on a rape
That's some.
case, how they do that. So
A
it was
real postmortem? This is
yeah, it was, yeah. The man was satellite. Satellite
Yes,
was
a
found.
real one.
Satellite was found floating in the Tagatu River.
oh my gosh.
When the bottom opened, um, he didn't have any water in him. So that meant that, well, the doctor was explaining, this means that this person
Yeah.
was murdered
He
before
was.
and then
He
thrown
didn't.
into the water. No, all
Was
these
murdered.
revelations in
Yeah.
my young mind. And then the rape case, we had to do a rape case testing and so on, but it was a complete experience there. Meanwhile, I, being a musician, also used to go across to Brazil with the group Harpy Singers, and we would have fun during the weekend and things like that. So after that, in 1976, there was a conference, a political conference, and they were asking for persons who have the qualifications to do aviation. And I applied. My brother encouraged me because I said I already have a job. And then the Dr. Prasad was saying, Ovid, I think you're going to make a perfect doctor. And we don't have an Indian doctor. You can, but other people say, man, apply for the thing, man. So I applied for the aviation course. I didn't never plan to be an aircraft pilot, but I get with the interview, and President Comrade Leader interviewed me.
Comrade
And
Lee is
Comrade
NFS
Leader,
program we're talking
they
about.
call him Mr. Ornum, Comrade Leader. So they flew me to Georgetown for this interview, and Comrade Leader interviewed me. And I always, this man was powerful. When I said powerful, with his speech and so on. So I was getting a little difficulty with getting my income tax clearance when to attend, to go away to study. And the man, up to now, his words still reverberate in my mind when he said, when he directed somebody to get my tax clearance, and he said, when I say yay, is there anybody to say nay? But when I was casting doubt in my mind, the man said, "Oh, ye of little faith," which is like biblical quotings, you know. And these things impress, and the way he speaks, the way he was very articulate, that impressed me as a great leader. Long story short, I went to Cuba. First year was in Spanish, to learn the Spanish because all the instructors, they couldn't speak English. We had to do our course in Spanish, and of course mixed with the Marxism and Leninism. And then
Wow.
the second year was the theory, and then the third year was the practical. But let me come back to the little challenges that I had at school. I was lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anybody, and my guardians. The food was different.
Yeah.
We didn't have TV on that time, but from school I get back home, and a lot of thoughts coming through my mind. How do I fit into this society? People are speaking English, and at school I'm
Mhm.
being mocked because when they said,
Yeah.
where are you from? I said, I come from Paramakatay. What is
Perfect
your name?
English.
My name is Ovid Williams. How old are you? I am 12 years old.
Yes,
I
as a
was
second language.
so the people say, no, like we got an English dog between me, man, and so that was a challenge. So I was lonely. I didn't have any friend, and then I eventually got one friend, a guy named Peter Gonzalez, and he said, I noticed you're walking. Jump on the bike, man. I'm going to give you a drop. So that's how I got my first friend, and I eventually got a bicycle to ride and so on. But because of my loneliness,
So where
um,
was Peter from, Ovid? Where was Peter from?
Peter, Peter was originally from the quarantine, um, um, of Portuguese mixture, and he was living in Sussex Street, just by Alboystown.
Hmm.
So because coming from the country, I guess he kind of related
I think the
somehow.
internet want to give us some challenge right now. Yes. I don't.
Yes.
Ovid, are you hearing us?
Yes, I'm hearing
Yes.
you. I'm hearing you.
We're okay. We're okay on this end.
Yes. So after that, I picked up. I got a guitar, and it was a beggar that used to come and count his money on the Suaquan Winery in 78 Rob Street. And he heard me picking this guitar, and he said, "You want to learn to play?" I said, "Yes." Then he said, "The first thing, the guitar is out of tune." So after he finished counting his money and so on, he set it for me and he played. And the first song he played was Perfidia. Da 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 da